everyone, it's JKJ's Metal Chat. Hope you're all well and welcome to another episode of my Metal Vault. You know the drill. I will be exploring and showing you my favorite albums within heavy metal, thrash metal, death metal, black metal, doom metal, sludge metal, folk metal, you name it, all of that excellent stuff. This is episode 13, and here's a band that needs no introduction, but they're going to get one. Same with the other bands, they didn't need it either, but they deserve it. Band from Tampa, Florida, been going since 1983, and the album I got for you is just a solid, sick banger of an album. I am talking about Morbid Angel and their monstrous debut from 1989, Altars of Madness. And what an album this is. For any newcomers, you need this. Before you veterans, you know what this is like. Of course, we got the back. We got David on bass and vocals, Trey on lead guitar, Richard on lead guitar, and Pete on drums. Another favorite drummer of mine within metal. And of course, Richard here, been gone since 2019. And it's going to be 5 years since he passed away. But his contributions to this album, his guitar work, everything on this album is solid. Now let's talk about this album. Of course, came out in 1989, and then, of course, these guys went on tour with Carcass, Boltfer, and Napalm Death, to promote this album. And of course, it is released by Earache Records. And of course, this is a reissue vinyl because it is a nice gatefold, and look at that. Nice band picture right there. All the guys. And I believe there is a lyrical sheet within here. Of course, everyone knows that artwork. It's from one of the demos. And it's Thy Kingdom Come. If you have that demo, then you know. And of course, this image, of course, for a long time I was trying to figure out where the hell that image was from. Of course, it's from Metropolis, great German film from the 1920s. But yeah, seeing that on a death metal album fits very well. Let's talk about the band itself. But of course, let's get the vinyl out, and it's got the Earache logo in there. Nice black vinyl, of course. Now, the band themselves, like I said, they formed in 1983. But looking them up on here, on the talent, which is where I go to get any facts about bands. Of course, in 1983, they formed under a name called Ice, and then 83 to 84 as Heretic before changing it permanently to Morbid Angel. It says formed in 1983 by Mike Browning. We all know Mike Browning of Nocturnus, but he had bands after Morbid Angel. This was his first ever band that he was ever in. But of course, he had other bands after that, like Incubus and, of course, Nocturnus. Yeah, so formed by Mike Browning, of course, Trey, and there's Dallas, who was the original bass player and did some vocals. But for Morbid Angel themselves, Mike Browning did not only the drums, but the vocals as well. And I like the really early stuff of Morbid Angel because there was supposed to be an album before this one that was recorded in 1986 called Abominations of Desolation. which has pretty much half of the songs from here, especially with Chapel of Ghouls, one of my favorite Morbid Angel songs, and Angel of Disease, which would later be on Covenant. And just looking at the songs here, I'm trying to think what else was on this one. And I think Chapel of Ghouls was the only one to appear from Abominations of Desolation on their debut, which is Altars of Madness. But it's good to hear earlier versions of, well, like an early version of Chapel of Ghouls, which sounds a lot more mid-paced. This one on here is just a beast. The whole album from start to finish with, the songs Immortal Rights, Suffocation, Visions from the Dark Side, Maze of Torment, another song that I love with this band. Chapel of Ghouls, Bleed for the Devil, Damnation, Blasphemy, and Evil Spells. Of course, you want old school death metal, this is old school death metal. And looking at artwork, of course, done by the mastermind that is Dan Seagrave, has done so much artwork for so many other death metal bands. And yeah, just Altars of Madness. Like looking at this, it's just like some evil beings trying to get out of a portal to take over this world. That's basically what sums up the whole atmosphere of the album. The whole album itself is just, the thing with this album is it's late 80s death metal goodness. It's just an album that everyone is gonna know. Of course, I've mentioned albums on here that a lot of people won't know because they got overlooked, and of course this was one of the biggest ones to come out within 1989. Showed Consuming Impulse by Pestilence, which also came out the same year as this, as well as Bolt Thrower's Realm of Chaos. And so many different albums. Creators, Extreme Aggression, and just there's so many great albums ranging from thrash to heavy metal to death metal and doom, but throughout the list of those, especially just talking about metal albums, this stands out as one of the best, and for good reason. It's aggressive, it's fierce, and it's in your face. Just Chapel Ghouls. You got that like organ sound when it's with the guitars, and just after you hear Pete's drums, it's like he's just going to destroy the whole kit, and they had to keep replacing it like for the album, but that's what it feels like, because the man himself is a really fast, aggressive drummer. Plays anything unknown except a machine, which David Vincent mentioned on the interview with Vanessa Warwick when they were going to be touring in the UK and Europe around when Covenant was just released. Of course, one of the clips from that live show had the song Blasphemy. Just, yeah, that song, just how that starts out, it's got that, that creepy opening. Well, not creepy opening, it's like gunshots going off, and then it goes straight into the song, and that's just what you want with a song like that. But there are songs where you like add like these, atmospheric ambient sounds like would go well with the band's overall sound. then kicking with the song. But with that, it's like gunshots and then straight in. And of course, David's vocals on this are a lot different from when you hear it on Blessed Are the Sick and Covenant and Domination. And of course, around that time, he even mentioned on, I think it was the Blessed Are the Sick side of the documentary, because they obviously re-released them on CD, and they got parts 1 and 2 of like different like documentaries about the albums that those documentaries are on. And I think it was on that one. He said that he was a heavy smoker, hence why his voice was more raspy, more on the hell bent on like aggressive thrash metal bands like Creator, for example, and Sodom. That more harsh, raspy, nasty tone, vocal tone. And it works really well here. And of course, he stopped smoking, and obviously his vocals changed a lot more. But his vocals on this really complements the entire album with everything that's happening. Of course, Trey and Richard just absolutely shredding it up, especially Trey, who's just an absolute monster on the guitar. Of course, got his BC Rich there. Of course, that was, guitar of choice for death metal bands. Of course, mentioned Richard passing away in 2019, which, of course, when I found out, I thought, well, death metal scene has lost a prominent member of that scene. And the Florida scene itself is just, so many great bands came from Florida. Death, Massacre, Obituary, Resurrection, Brutality. I might be missing a few right now. Of course, bands relocating. So like Morbid Creation and Cannibal Corpse relocated to Florida. I know there's so many more. Deicide, Nocturnus, so many different bands coming from Florida, and even some relocating to Florida. But if we're talking about just Floridian death metal bands or Floridian bands themselves, the really early ones, of course, Death, Obituary as Executioner, and these guys definitely just, and of course, Massacre, just bringing something that no one heard before. Because there's that festival, that All Day Festival that happened in 1986 in Florida, which I've seen the full set of Massacres one, which I believe you can get on DVD. I don't know, but Morbid Angel played that. Of course, that's before Mike Browning pretty much left the band. And I think that was around the time they either started recording or it was after they did Abominations of Desolation. And of course, then the Chapel Ghouls went on this one. And, and obviously David Vincent was producing the Abominations of Desolation album. What was meant to be, from what I heard, was supposed to be their first album, as far as what I can remember. Yeah, that does sound. Yeah, that's right. But then obviously, different things happened. But then we got the Morbid Angel that we know from this album, this lineup, and David joining the band. Of course, that's how I found out about Morbid Angel was because of David and Trey and Pete being in the band and Richard. That's the lineup I knew, but then looked it up and then saw Mike Browning was in the band from 1984 to 1986. And of course, mentioning the bands that he was in after this, like Incubus, then formed Nocturnus, and he joined Asheron, who another Floridian band, of course, no longer based in Florida anymore, but are still a Floridian band, but they now all reside in Columbus, Ohio. But still a Floridian band. And of course, mentioning newer ones, like you got Worm, for example. So you got all the earlier bands, like, again, Morbid Angel, Death, and Obituary and Massacre. Just playing metal. Like, as obviously you heard heavy metal, and then you got thrash, and then these guys took it, not just these guys, but all the other guys, but yeah, took it a step further. And then, of course, when it got to the late 80s, you got albums like, for example, Scream Bloody Gore, Leprosy, not just from bands in Florida, from Creator. So you got Terrible Certainty, which Terrible Certainty from 1987 as well. So I'm trying to remember the album names and also what year they all came out from. And of course you got, again, I mentioned Extreme Aggression. You got Persecution Mania by Sodom, and then after that was Agent Orange, and for those two albums, their debut, Obsessed by Cruelty, which was from 86. But for that mid-late 80s, you start getting that more aggressive style of metal. Death metal was coming in, of course. If we're going to mention a band that, along with Death, kickstarting it, there's that argument who was the first death metal band. Let's mention Possessed with 1985's Seven Churches. I don't think a lot of those bands, they heard those bands, Possessed and Death, and like, well, if they're kicking metal, like thrash metal, taking it up a notch, let's take it up a notch. And then, yeah, this album's in that list. Because this album is just, if someone says, oh yeah, it's still kind of thrashy, it's like, I think this is just full-blown death metal. There's nothing thrashy about it. There's no thrashy riffs. There's no, like thrashy guitar riffage or bass riffs or drumming. There's no thrash elements in this album, I don't think, anyway. Of course, it's an album that you can just play all the way through, or if you like at the gym, you might just pick your own favorites. Of course, I got my favorites. The first track, Immortal Rights, of course, Maze of Torment and Chapel of Ghouls, Blasphemy. Definitely four of my favorites, but every song on here, solid from start to finish. Yet to watch that Versus video that MOD did, but trying to remember which album he did. I think it was this one and Mevlik Creation, I believe. I'm gonna have a look in a minute after I've done this video. But definitely an album that everyone needs in their collection. I know I say that a lot, but it's the truth. Solid album, awesome band, excellent cover. Dan Seagrave knows what he's doing. And if he was watching this, excellent work, my friend. Awesome. All your stuff's excellent. And again, to any newcomers into death metal, you might be listening to Cannibal Corpse and Suffocation, another great band as well. you know, Skeletal Remains, Pertinence, which is a Finnish death metal band. You might have found all those bands and be like, cool. But then you might, was there any other well-known ones? Morbid Angel. And yeah, let's look at the logo as well. Really cool logo. Yeah, you wouldn't want to go near this portal. You'd be either trying to come out or they're going to drag you in. And this album here, just solid death metal from 1989, and it's just a solid death metal album in general. I know everyone's going to have this, but it's for anyone who's watching this, and like, I don't know this one. I know maybe like the other ones. You want to start off with Morbid Angel, you start with this. Or you can start with Blessed Are the Sick or Covenant, whichever you choose. But if you want to hear it from the start, in terms of their full lengths, definitely this one. It's just, it's an absolute banger. It's excellent. And again, fierce and savage, in your face, death metal. And it does no wrong. If you're a death metal fan, you're a death metal maniac, love your death metal through and through, and you don't have it, get it. You will not be disappointed at all. This is Morbid Angel and Altars of Madness. And once again, that is it for another My Metal Vault episode. I'm looking at my notes again of the next albums that I have for you. Of course, I got episodes 14, 15, and 16, and then I will get on to the next ones. Of course, another one will be up on Tuesday, because I got them listed at what days, which ones are going up. I'm still finding more albums now. But I thought, if I'm going to mention some death metal, some more death metal, and I mean solid, excellent death metal from the late 1980s, Morbid Angel, Altars of Madness, that needs to be mentioned. I know it's been mentioned a bunch of times on other metal YouTuber videos, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people have checked out already, but there's going to always be new metal fans, and they will probably come across their videos or my video here and be like, wow, I don't know that one. Or they might, I don't know that album, but know Morbid Angel, and be like, oh, I don't know Morbid Angel, but I've heard of that album because I know that cover. So, well, check it out. And I'll have a lot more albums from that year in the future. I know I've been showing a lot of death metal lately. Of course, looking at my list, obviously I got another death metal album to show you, and another death metal album, some Death Doom. I have to look at my list in a minute, but of course, there's going to be some classic heavy metal coming on this series. But you know me, guys, if you watch my videos for a long time, you know I love my death metal. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for any new subscribers that I've gotten recently, for liking and sharing and leaving a comment and subscribing to the channel. It means a lot. And there's so many more metal YouTubers out there that need your support. And I know half of them are subscribed to my channel. I'm subscribed to their channels. So thank you very much for that. We got to support one another. Until another episode of My Metal Vault, I have been Jake and Jake's Metal Chat. Keep that banner metal held high, and I will see you all in the next one.